By the time we got to the 1999 record, we'd been in this rhythm of, Prince does a record, we rehearse the record, and in an infinite number of iterations and variations. We go out, we tour that record, we come off the road, Prince goes back in the studio. That cycle was well established. We spent many, many, many hours jamming in rehearsals and sort of, exchanging musical ideas and the like. So what he did was make available the opportunity to play on some of the later records, like Little Red Corvette, like 1999. So on Corvette, I had the opportunity to play the guitar solo and do the background vocals and share the lead vocals on 1999. In the past, he had either tracked some of it out of town or mixed out of town.
Ever since my third album, I wasn't really taking large advances from the recording companies. I was recording the albums myself in my own studio.
He started, working on the record, but this time he did everything at home and was more involved in the process. The songs started to be worked out in rehearsals on the road.
We were traveling. There was a hotel sign, free HBO. So everybody got to their room to turn on HBO.
Look at this man, this Michel de Nostradamus. He was a respected French physician. These predictions of the past, these warnings of the future, are not the opinions of the producers of this film.
HBO documentary about Nostradamus.
Michel de Nostradamus, whose predictions
and the prediction of the end of the world
have mystified scholars for over 400 years. But before continuing, let me warn you now that the predictions of the future are not at all comforting.
We were sitting around watching a special about 1999.
In the year 1999 and 7 months, from the sky will come the great king of terror.
1999.
Out of the country of Greater Arabia shall be born a strong master of Mohammedan law. This king will enter Europe wearing a blue turban. He is one that shall cause the infernal gods of Hannibal to live again. He will be the terror of mankind, never more horror.
A lot of people were talking about the year, and there are a lot of people running around speculating on what was going to happen.
Nothing, the prophet says, will keep the city from dying.
You could feel it in the hotel rooms. They were just glued to the TV, and we're all blown away by this thing.
I knew that there were going to be rough times for the earth.
Like normal people do, the next day, the water cooler talk is, did you see?
The great city will soon be quite deserted.
Everyone that was around me, whom I thought to be very optimistic people, were dreading those days.
And for Prince, he had written 1999 the song.
1982 I wrote that. I just wanted to write something that gave hope.
And we worked on 1999. There was no band in the studio. I mean, it was just us, really. Right. I mean, he had started working with Vanity 6, I think. He was finishing up some stuff on them, finishing some stuff with The Time. From when we started working on not dance music, sex romance, Let's Pretend We're Married.
When people talk about the Minneapolis sound, it's Let's Pretend We're Married. Because he took the synthesizer horns and he made them sound so crisp, gave him what Count Basie had. It was all about horns. And Prince did it on 1999. He had a little bit of a Let's Work earlier, but Let's Pretend We're Married, the crisp power of it. He really had whatever the next generation of synths was happening at that time. The Pearl Syncussion tom-toms on top of the LM1 drum machine. It didn't have to be playable as a human.
And it was basically all drum machine. That was the new thing. Drum machines and synthesizers. The combination of that plus the licks that basically Prince did, They did form their own genre. A lot of people tried to copy that. A lot of the Minneapolis guys sounded like that. But that's only because they were copying his style. He was the originator of that.
And Delirious was already kind of done. I didn't meet anybody until I went back to start rehearsals for that tour, which was in the summer.
I literally got a call, while, in fact, it was earlier than I expected for it to happen. I didn't think he was that far along yet. I thought I had more time off.
That was really the most kind of methodical. Like, I remember I got to rehearsal in the morning, and I think he was actually at my keyboards.
And he'd go, hey, and how he did it was so great because they'd almost think they were jamming the song. But he had already been playing like the keyboard line for a while with a drum machine. And then they just start coming in
and had the drum machine going. And he was like playing the boom, 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 boom. And he said, he looked at me, come here. And so he showed me the chords and he was like, play that.
We would ask things of Lisa because we knew exactly what he'd want, so we'd tell her.
And then so like as each person arrived at rehearsal that day, the drum machine never stopped, like it just kept going and going, and everyone would add in their part, like Brown Mark arrived at rehearsal and he was like, here, just play boom, boom, boom,
We all got together and we started singing and it wasn't really working.
Well, I get this call to drive out to the house.
Des, Prince, he'd come over. But this time he had the record like substantially finished and had some holes, as he always did by that time, that he wanted me to kind of step into and fill.
He wanted me to hear the stuff. And first he played me 1999. He played me a guide vocal that he had.
It actually had me sing most of the song. So the first thing he did was he put up the 1999 track. And he had recorded it in such a way that it could have been alternating verses, or it could have been what it ended up being on the record.
But there was a point during rehearsal, we were working on it. The song was going to be sung in a 3-part harmony like Sly and the Family Stone song.
Or he would call and ask me to, come and sing on a part. I lived down the road. I was closest.
And then I remember that night he had us come to his house, or he had me come. I don't remember who else was there except for Jill.
I'm singing on 1999. You know when they go, I'm playing that shit, but I ain't credited. I'm on a lot of shit like that.
And I played my keyboard parts, and then we did the vocal. And at first I sang that verse line by myself, that first line, but we added Jill because Jill just has, I hate to say it, but she has a better voice than me.
But then specifically, I think there was just a tone quality. He and I were really good at blending.
Well, she's a way better singer. She just had like that fiery, it just was better for like the opening line of a song. Because my voice was kind of, I was dreaming when I was just a little dreamier sounding. And she's more like, I was dreaming when I was, she's like tough. So I remember doing that. And then I remember doing like the party, the vocals at the end.
Then on the end of the song, Jill Jones will tell you, it's me, Jill Jones, and Prince on one mic. And we're just going, party, and clapping and singing all that shit.
I mean, at that point in time, the whole structure of it that everyone knows from the actual single wasn't in place. And there were a bunch of vocals by different people, but it wasn't yet, okay, you sing this line from this verse, and then you sing that line, and then you go to this harmony on the chorus. It was none of that. It was just sing it. And then after, I kind of sang down the whole thing, it's like, well, do this harmony here.
As I said, or you sing your harmony for the first part, then you sing your harmony for the second part, and I'll sing my harmony for the third. When everybody got their parts separated, then I knew we had something real special.
When I heard it, I said, you did it. That's it.
I was so happy because of when 1990 came, he had the pressing of it and the for the 12-inch or something, and it said JJ. Shit, I was in First Avenue and he's playing it, and I'm like, yeah, and I see the thing, and I'm like, finally credited me, and it wasn't me, it was Jill Jones, and I was just heartbroken. Like we were jammed and we would do that. that right there, right? So then I came up on the album as a song, and that's one of the main things on the song. And I had played him that a few days before, and then I heard that song, and I was like, dude, really? And he was like, what? Tell me. And I was like, I just can't explain it when you in that space, and you can't really tell him. You can't really tell him because you feel like a punk if you tell him. And I'm not credited as so I stopped. After that, I didn't jam. I said, if I got to tell you, fuck you.
I don't think we experimented with any additional guitar, but what he did have me do is that 1999, the pitched down, spoken 1999 and the vamp out. Well, that's me. He had me as almost an afterthought because he had already done the Don't Worry, I Won't Hurt You. But he evidently got the inspiration. Let's kind of bookend that with this thing going out. So that was my voice. When I was finishing up my vocals, he said, hey, I want you to do one more thing.
I knew what he was going for with it. I knew he wanted to be a pop star. He wanted a big pop record with a big fat pop
Open
hook.
secret. He never said it directly, but it was obvious. So you could have a song like 1999, which still kind of has this rhythmic thing and has the horn stabs, but it's purely pop. But at the same time, it's apocalyptic. So you know what I mean? He found that sweet spot. So yeah, when I came into the house and heard the record, it was like, okay, well, there it is. That's what you've been talking about, and there it is. And we talked about radio all the time. We talked about those things. We talked about it in the band. It was a discussion between Prince and management. It was a discussion between management and Prince and the whole band. I mean, it was the worst kept secret of all time.
Every single day he had a work ethic that was crazy. I mean, it wasn't just fun and games. The dates were at like 3 a.m, kind of a night owl. And then, drop you off home, or then going into the studio for days and days. The album is about escapism. That album was a big transition, even just on the side, not personally, but I also think for his career, because it opened up the door for him to gain access to doing Purple Rain.
Yeah, but when
he wanted to make that movie all along.
Changed from what he was creating with Andre and everybody from before, because he was now the boss in charge. It was no one was his friend. So rehearsals to me always, and Dez was there, who he could never really tell Dez anything about his guitar playing.
He said, I'm going to start playing guitar less and less. You're a better lead player anyway. I'm going to focus on being a front man, and I'm going to have you do most of the lead stuff from now on. And that's what he did. Sorry, folks, but that's what he said. And I know Eric Clapton said and whatever, but Prince said, dude, you take it. Corvette, on the other hand, was just background vocal stuff. Hey, try this, try that. And he would give me a lot of latitude. He'd kind of throw out an idea, but then he'd let me try things, and when he heard something he likes. But with the guitar solo, I just kind of did 5 passes, just like.
So there are sort of 4 distinct phrases in the song, but each of them came from a different pass. So that by the time the record came out, I had to relearn the solo. The phrases don't fit together in terms of what you would normally do, how you would structure it in terms of physically playing a song. Because we took a section of one pass for the first phrase, a section of another pass for the second, but then it switched to another take, and then this.
And then we sat and comped it. And there were some things that he felt strongly about that I was like, eh. And mainly I was thinking in terms of, how am I going to play that? Because that interval is completely unnatural. You're not going to go from playing that phrase to playing that phrase. And people will think it's a genius, but I'm never going to be able to play it again. And then other parts of it, I was like, that we got to keep. And that was it. I mean, it was those 5 passes, comped it into one solo that the rest is a mystery.
Stay a while. See how it's done.